Well, good morning. Today I'm very proud to sign yet another bill to round out Illinois' significant fiscal progress. Yet again, we are saving taxpayers hundreds of millions of dollars. Back in 2016, legislators introduced the idea of expanding opportunities for state employees to access their savings earlier, offering them more flexibility to make retirement income decisions for themselves. And it offered the state the chance to reduce the overall pension liability burden. The proposal was met with some skepticism, but the General Assembly was willing to try it, introducing it only as a pilot program at first. By the time I took office in 2019, the program had defeated the naysayers' expectations and had proved itself. And one of the earliest actions of my administration was to expand the program to allow more state workers to participate. Now, over 4,500 retiring public servants have said yes to that opportunity, and in doing so, they've reduced our state's net pension debt by more than $1.4 billion. That represents significant taxpayer savings, not only this year, but for decades to come. Thanks to the General Assembly, the legislation I'll sign today extends the window for state employees, university workers, and educators to take advantage of early access to their pension savings through fiscal year 2026. That means at least 4 more years of cost savings for taxpayers. Indeed, it will go beyond that. I believe in fiscal responsibility and in responsible fiscal management. That means taking every action possible to address our pension obligations while honoring promises made to current and retired workers, promises made by governors and legislators on both sides of the aisle. This legislative session alone, in addition to this expansion of the bipartisan pension buyout program, Democrats additionally saved taxpayers nearly $2 billion in pension liabilities by paying down our pension debt in advance. Today, the percentage of our overall budget dedicated to pension payments is reducing, and over the last 3 years, the funding of our pensions has improved to its highest level since 2008. We did it all while putting $1 billion into our rainy day fund, the highest balance ever, and saving hundreds of millions of dollars of taxpayer dollars by eliminating our late payment bill backlog and paying off longstanding debts. And over 90% of families will receive hundreds of dollars in tax relief to reduce the burden of higher grocery and gas taxes. Reducing long-term pension debt is one of the most important and challenging goals for all of us on both sides of the aisle. But we're succeeding in part because of the sponsors of today's legislation, Senator Rob Martwick, Representative Bob Morgan, and Representative Mark Batnick, as well as other partners in the General Assembly like Senator Doris Turner. So with that, I'll turn it over to one of those leaders, the legislation's chief sponsor in the Senate and a creative thinker when it comes to addressing our pension debt, Senator Rob Martwick. Senator?
Good morning, and thank you, Governor Pritzker, for your leadership and your partnership on turning this state from what was a financial disaster and putting us onto the path of fiscal responsibility. Your dedication to that is unparalleled, and our state is better off because of it. Thank you, Comptroller Mendoza, for your partnership in these matters as well, continuing to steward the state and guard its assets and again, partner with us on really turning into a state of fiscal responsibility. I'd also like to thank Representative Morgan and Senator Turner, Representative Morgan for your vision in seeing that this program was worthy of expansion, carrying that legislation in the House, and Senator Turner for your continued collaboration in these matters. Last, I'd like to thank the one person who's not here, and that is my partner in this initiative, Representative Mark Batnick. As many of you know here, Representative Batnick is, I think, would be fair. I think he would probably be quite pleased when I called him a conservative Republican. I am quite a liberal Democrat. You know, bipartisanship seems to be a lost art more and more as our parties polarize and our country engages in these culture wars. But I will tell you that bipartisanship is not about sacrificing your ideology. It's about having respect for each other. Having respect for that we're all entitled to have our own opinions on those big partisan issues, and finding a way to come together to work on issues that you can agree on. Representative Batnick and I, in 2014, I had an idea for discounted present cash value buyouts of future liabilities. In 2015, Representative Batnick came to the General Assembly with the same idea. And we said, let's partner on it. And probably a more odd couple you could not imagine in the Illinois General Assembly. But we worked together and we proposed this, and the results, as Governor Pritzker said, are far in excess of what anyone could ever expect. As many of you know, Representative Batnick is retiring. And I called him to lament him not being here in the General Assembly. And I told him, I said, Mark, remember this. And I challenge all of you here today. Find another measure in the state of Illinois that saved nearly $2 billion without cutting programs or without raising taxes. We did that because we had the willingness to respect each other, come together, and adopt sound financial policy, sound mathematical principles, and work with a governor who saw the vision in this, and we were able to achieve great savings for Illinois. So it's something that I am personally very proud of the success of this program, and I look forward to future savings for the state of Illinois. And with that, I will turn it over to the House sponsor of this legislation, my good friend and partner, Representative Bob Morgan.
Thank you, Senator Martwick. Good morning. My name is Bob Morgan. I'm the state representative for the 58th District, and I'm so happy to be here. Thank you to Governor Pritzker for convening us today, for signing this bill today. Just over 10 years ago, I was working as a state of Illinois employee, and there was a raging debate about pensions and our pension debt that was crushing the state budget. And the debate centered around a common principle, and the concepts and the ideas at the time were all designed to strip away the rightfully earned benefits of retirees. It was to strip their pensions, it was to reduce their health care, it was to end pensions for future employees. And I had a different idea. I had a different suggestion. It was to actually put cash in people's pockets, particularly retirees. It was one that was going to give retirees a choice, a real choice. They could receive a cash buyout that if they agreed to a lower cost of living increase year after year. I knew that some people would rather have that cash up front to help pay for their medical costs, to help pay for their mortgage, in exchange for giving up a 3% compounded COLA. 10 years later, and thanks to the effort of former Representative Rob Martwick and Representative Mark Batnick, we have seen this theory play out, and we've proven out this theory. We have seen that we've reduced our pension liability by over $1.4 billion. We've saved $2 for every $1 we have used for this program. HB 4292 will double this investment in our buyout program and will continue to erase more of our pension debt in both a constitutional and a moral way. By reducing our long-term pension debt, we've already freed up over $400 million for our budget over the last 4 years, money we've used to invest in education, in healthcare, and human services. We've erased some of the bad decisions of the past and reinvested in the communities that need our resources the most. Ladies and gentlemen, this is how government is supposed to work. There's so much more work to be done, of course, for pensions and many other issues facing the state of Illinois, but this program will continue to benefit the budget and continue to save money and also support the retirees who have earned their benefits. I look forward to working with the governor and Senator Martwick in 2023 on future ways to reduce our pension liability. And with that, I'm happy to introduce a warrior for our financial responsibility and stability, Comptroller Susana Mendoza.
Good morning. Pleasure to be here with all of you today, certainly with great news. And let me just start by saying that It's just wonderful to be here this morning with Governor Pritzker, with Senator Martwick, with Representative Morgan, with Senator Turner. Unfortunately, Representative Batnick is not here, but I feel like he's here in spirit, right? We've been talking about him all morning. But these folks are truly making things happen here in Illinois when it comes to saving money, which is something I am very, very passionate about, and certainly providing great service. So thank you for your leadership and for continuing Illinois' path towards a more stable and bright future. And as we've heard talk about bipartisanship here, when legislators of both parties can come together on a plan to save taxpayers money by reducing the state's pension shortfall, this is absolutely an occasion to celebrate. From the fields of transportation, education, human and social services, housing, healthcare, and so much more, state workers are the very fabric of our state's safety net and operations. We rely on them, and we promise these workers, as Representative Morgan so eloquently stated, that once they retired, their pensions would be there. Just like we honor our contracts with state vendors, who are now getting paid on time. My oldest voucher is 12 days old. We must honor our contracts with our workers. This law means that the state is addressing its liabilities and making good on its promises to retirees while also saving money for taxpayers. The state is making monumental progress toward getting our fiscal house in order, and this is just one more step, but it's a huge step in that direction. Last month, we celebrated our third credit upgrade in less than a year. That, of course, came on the heels of Governor Pritzker signing a truly responsible state budget, a budget that includes $1 billion for the rainy day fund, and reviving this reserve account means that we are planning for the state's future. And the credit rating agencies certainly take a look at that and took a look at it as a sign of our fiscal stability. Moody's just cited the rainy day fund infusion a couple weeks ago as a reason for the second upgrade they've given us in less than a year. And of course, the fiscal year 2023 budget includes $500 million in additional pension payments, which saves us, as Governor Pritzker mentioned, $1.8 billion in the long run. This is great news. And as I announced just last month, we no longer have a bill backlog. If I catch anybody using the term bill backlog, I'm going to pass the swear jar, okay? Don't say it. We now have an accounts payable, down from nearly $17 billion under the former governor's administration to just $2.1 billion as of today. And we've massively shrunk our bill payment cycle. Right now, my oldest bill is 12 days old, 12 working days, down from an average of 210 working days in 2017. As Comptroller, I'm also chair of the State Employees Retirement System, and I receive regular updates on how the acceleration programs are progressing and, frankly, how popular they are. The participation rate has exceeded expectations. Compared to the nearly $258 million the state has paid thus far to more than 2,200 retirees participating in the COLA plan, the state has saved $368 million in future liabilities. This is real money. So it's no surprise that stakeholders from all sides agree that extending the acceleration programs for 2 years is absolutely the right move to make. And credit rating agencies see our reduction of pension liabilities as more welcome news. So let's celebrate, and then let's get back to work to earn even more credit upgrades and save even more money for taxpayers by leading with fiscal responsibility. Thank you. Oh, and I am going to have the distinct pleasure of getting to introduce our next speaker, who is none other than the wonderful leader and supporter, certainly, of this initiative and so many more, Senator Doris Turner.
Thank you. Good morning. You all are so quiet this morning. Is it because of the rain? So every day I wake up, it's a good day, some better than others. Today is the National Day of Prayer, and we have long prayed for our state and our fiscal health. And this is a great step to continue us on that path. As others have said, a pension is a promise. It's a promise that we've made to every state employee that signs up and becomes a state employee. And we have an obligation, a responsibility to keep that promise. And we today, this step puts us on that path to continue to hold true to that promise. House Bill 4292 will allow the state to continue to offer choices to our retiring state workers, university workers, and teachers that will not only benefit them, but reduce the long-term pension liabilities of the state and ultimately the taxpayers. This is a good outcome for retirees, but everyone in the state will benefit because there will be more money for other programs and services that our state is obligated to provide. So again, I will end the way I began. Today is a very good day. And I would invite Governor Pritzker up to sign this historic legislation.
Thank you.
Yay!
They're way too quiet. Must be the rain.
Used to be up till 6 a.m. in the legislature. There you go. Okay. Thank you. Before I take questions, first of all, in the vein of fiscal responsibility and all the progress that we've made for the state of Illinois, as we've been sitting here, Fitch came out with its new ratings for the state of Illinois, and we've received not one but 2 credit upgrades from Fitch. Yeah. This is credit that should go to the General Assembly, to Democrats who passed the budget, the balanced budget this year, 4 balanced budgets in a row, and to all the leaders who participated, including the Comptroller, in the effort to make sure that we're back in good fiscal order, that the state is building its fiscal foundations for the road ahead. So with that, and again, once again, before I take any questions, I want to address a report from the Auditor General regarding the LaSalle Veterans Home that came out this morning. In November of 2020, in a number of communities around our state, we were fighting an uphill battle to stop the spread of COVID. We were at the dawn of the worst surge to date, and you may remember this is before we had vaccines. We were working against Republican elected officials who told people to defy mitigation efforts. We told people that they needed to follow those mitigations, but Republicans told them that they need not wear masks. They told people that they didn't need to get vaccinated. They told people that COVID wasn't serious. Those lies put people's lives at risk, especially the most vulnerable, even as my team and I worked 18 hours a day for 9 months straight to fight them. There was not a day that went by when we didn't discuss how to best help our most vulnerable, especially those Illinoisans in nursing homes. Everyone agreed. COVID came into LaSalle because it was spreading rampantly in the surrounding community. At that time in the pandemic, IDPH was not visiting nursing homes in person because the threat of unintentionally spreading COVID was significantly greater than the potential benefit of a visit. IDPH updated guidance every time the CDC learned something new and reiterated that guidance time and again with our agencies, with local health departments, with nursing homes all across our state. In these terrible weeks of November 2020, where cases and deaths were climbing everywhere in the country, my team was constantly on the phone, both internally and with all of the agencies. We kept updating and distributing guidance to long-term care facilities as we learned more. In fact, this report confirms what we have said from day one. Our veterans' homes were equipped with the latest guidance based on solid science. This report also documents the fact that as soon as it looked like there might be an outbreak, my team asked IDVA if there was anything more that they needed. IDVA immediately conducted hundreds of tests of employees at a time when few tests were available, and regular testing wasn't the norm. I personally made sure that IDPH visited the site when they could be sure that the potential benefits wouldn't outweigh the very serious risks of introducing the virus. Every single COVID death, all 33,000 of them, has weighed on me tremendously throughout this crisis. Every loss of life has been tragic. There's been so much grief by families, pain experienced by communities, the passing of so many loved ones. But no deaths trouble me more than those of our brave service members who survived battles to save our nation. All of this is why I followed the science from day one and why I will continue to do so. And with that, I'm happy to take any questions from members of the media. Jeremy.
Did your administration purposely try to shield the public health department from responsibility for LaSalle by keeping the inspector general report, at least a year earlier than just the sheriff's department?
We immediately jumped on this to make sure when we saw the tragic results to make sure that we were issuing reports and being transparent about everything that was going on. Indeed, I ordered an investigation by the IG to reveal all the challenges at the LaSalle nursing home to make sure that we were addressing them and make sure that we could hold people accountable for their actions, and we've done that.
But did you unfairly make Veterans Affairs the fallback for the failures of IDPH in this matter?
No, let me be clear. Every agency of our government was in the midst of the worst time in this health crisis, this global deadly pandemic. Every one of them was working extraordinarily long hours and focused on keeping people alive. They did everything that they could. People died anyway, but far fewer people because of the work that's been done by the agencies, and particularly by the Department of Public Health and the Department of Veterans Affairs.
I'm not sure that you ever fully explained why the investigation you requested from the Conservative IG was only focused on the Department of Veterans Affairs, when you could easily also expand it to IDPH. Maybe, your governor's office too, but just why? I'm not sure that any of the explanations you've ever given have been.
Well, remember, IDVA is full of healthcare professionals. It's not just the Department of Public Health that was dealing with this pandemic, the Department of Veterans Affairs too. And yes, there's a lot of collaboration across a bunch of agencies, not just by IDVA with one other agency, but with many, including, by the way, IEMA. And so what we asked for was specifically to look at the LaSalle Veterans Home, what was going on at that agency, at that location, what was going on with the leadership at that location, what were the communications, what were the nurses and others who work there doing at the time, were they doing it well, were they following procedures, because the procedures were in place for the right things to happen. Remember, back then we had 2 mitigation efforts only available. Right? One of them was wearing a mask, and the other was distancing. And we wanted to make sure that everything that we could do was being done. That's why we focused the investigation on that LaSalle Veterans Home alone. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear. I'll get back to you.
Pointing fingers at people who weren't charged. Are you taking responsibility for that?
Well, look, I'm the governor of the state of Illinois. So I understand that these agencies are my responsibility. My appointments to lead those agencies are my responsibility. The policies and procedures are done by the agency themselves. The management of the individuals who work at a particular veterans home are handled by people at those homes. And so we wanted to make sure there's no way that you can see across 50,000+ people in your government as governor exactly what everybody's doing. That's why we focused this effort on finding out what had happened at the agency. Look, I appoint people to office. I also take them out of office when they've not done the job, when we discover people have not done the job properly.
One more. Point towards, and can we get some on topics as well, if possible?
Last one.
All right. So what good does it do to point to others outside of your government to, in your statements just now, saying that they're responsible for a whole host of things when you're the governor?
When you say outside of the government, the folks that we're talking about all work with the government. There are people who are telling, they're leaders who are telling people not to wear masks, not to follow the mitigations. You think that helped during the middle of the worst part of the pandemic? And that was the worst part of the pandemic. You know, all the people who represented the area, the Republicans in general, you heard many of them, and some of them are still saying it even now, that you didn't need to wear a mask. Don't worry about it. Some of them aren't even vaccinated or have chosen to tell other people they don't need to get vaccinated. We were fighting all of that and the pandemic.
The Governor General claimed that IDPH did not respond to the seriousness of the outbreak. What's your explanation to that and to their example?
Once again, I think that what's missing from that, and I understand why they would say that, but what's missing from that is a recognition that IDPH was the central responsible agency for the entire pandemic. So just while this veterans home was having its outbreak, there were occurring all over the state in schools, in other nursing homes, in other congregate care settings. And at the time, they were following the guidance from CDC, which is in every which way, and not spreading the disease to those homes or congregate settings by sending somebody out when you can get on the phone with a healthcare professional on site and tell them what needs to be done. Yes, Dave. I'm going to take Dave's because I told him I would. I apologize. I saw you.
It seems like everything you've said is at odds with the Auditor General saying your administration messed up. How do I reconcile what you say versus what Martino's report says?
Well, I think the sum and substance of the report is that at a time when all agencies were stressed, at a time when the disease itself was widespread and rampant, one, people in the area weren't following mitigations. People were being infected and bringing it into the home. And that was an enormous challenge. And then on top of that, there were some management faults that occurred. And as you know, I did hold people accountable and I did fire people who were in those positions. And now we have a DVA director who is doing a fabulous job, Terry Prince. He took over nearly shortly after that and has kept people safe across our system. I'm very proud of the work that's being done now at the Department of Veterans Affairs. Thank you very much.